really cool. I'm okay. I'm good. Yeah. I'm assuming I was telling him normally, especially with free hikes, I don't mind, but like. It produced a really pretty picture. I don't know if y'all got to see the picture of the lady got of the bear like leaning on the railing. It was an awesome picture, but you don't feed the bear. You know that's a horrible decision. Yeah. And I don't know. This trail. This is where I got charged, but this trail normally we don't see the bear come this low, just because there's so much foot traffic in through here. The female that they're fighting over is nearby somewhere. When that happens, but I couldn't find her. I looked everywhere.
Yeah.
She probably did. Whatever he's done, he's on reason. There's a smarter one out there somewhere.
Blackstaff Cliff. It's always fun to hike with somebody that knows and tells everything about the trail. It's so interesting.
So it's really pretty up there, but it's called Blackstacks. On this side, we'll see it up here in just a second. But if you're ever coming from Asheville, and you're coming down I-26, and you look over into Rocky Fort, that's a Jeff question. He taught the whole 18.
That's
so,
one.
yeah, he knows. He knows about everything backwards and forwards. I always tell you these osprey bags.
Get the picture.
There's so many different reasons, but outside quest. Yep, we are ridgeline walking. So over here on the left, if you look, that is White House Cliffs. If you take that trail from the parking lot, it goes up on the back side of that mountain to the very top peak. So you get almost a 360-degree view of the Rocky Fork watershed and the Rocky Fork Gorge and the track Rocky Fork. The cliffs that I pointed out, Blackstacks on the way up, it's hard to see, but over here on the right, if you see the pine trees kind of glowing up on that hill, you can see the rock faces. I don't know if y'all can, but that is Blackstacks that we saw. I think it's just hidden by a hill, so you can't see it as good. So here's your little history lesson for today, and I will try to make it simple. But Big Bald, so if you follow this ridge line, if you look up there at the very top, if you see where the mountain starts to curve up and then it kind of plateaus, up there at the very top, do you guys see how it's a bald? How there's no trees up there?
Yeah.
Can you all see that? Okay, cool.
I know what you're talking about.
So that is Big Bald. In the I think it was like in the 1820s. It might have been a little bit later than that, sometime in the 1800s. There was a man from Yancey County, North Carolina. He came across because he wanted to, move. He wanted to kind of be frontiersman, whatever his ideas of coming across the mountain were. So he comes over here and he finds a farmer. He probably works for the farmer, and he falls in love with his daughter. So this daughter didn't take too kindly to this man. Nor did the farmer. So pretty much he was rejected. So he hikes up to Big Bald and decides to build a cabin up on Big Bald, and that's where he's going to start to live. He didn't buy the property or anything. He just builds a cabin up there. He quickly calls him. So to start back, he builds this cabin. He lives there for a while, but for some reason, and this kind of you'll find out later, he's just a little loco in ways. But he decides that a rock face up there is better than his cabin, so he tears and demolishes his cabin and moves into the cliff face. So he moves into the little rock shelter. He calls himself the King of Big Bald Mountain. The man's name's David Greer, but that's sidetracking. So he lives on this mountain, and a few years goes by. He's kind of known as a crazy man, and the locals called him the Hermit of Big Bald, not the King of Big Bald like he called himself. So if you guys are familiar with this area, especially if you like to fish or if you like anything up in Flag Pond, there's an Upper and Lower Higgins Creek. Upper and Lower Higgins Creek is named after a man by the name of Holland Higgins. Holland Higgins was one of the first settlers in Flag Pond. He was the purchaser, one of the first purchasers of Big Bald. So when he purchased this property, he decides to go up there and survey his land. Well, when he goes up there, he finds that there's a 3-foot wide trench dug all the way around Big Bald, where David Greer had decided to mark his property line. That it was not his property line. David Greer did not take too kindly to Holland Higgins being on top of his mountain, so he shot him and killed him.
Wow.
They went up and got him. The sheriffs went up and got David Greer, the hermit, and brought him down and tried him in court. He was let go on insanity. He pled insanity and was found insane. So he was sent back up to Big Bald where he lived. There's a lot more stuff that goes on in this story, but kind of the ending, the finality of this story is David Greer, again, was known as a crazy man, and I will say that a million times. But David Greer had a deal with a local blacksmith. This local blacksmith was supposed to have his tools sharpened, let's say by November 30th, was like the day that they had set together. So the blacksmith's wife or mom or dad, somebody in the family died. They had a loss of a family member. So he wasn't able to finish his tools in time. So he comes off the mountain on November 30th and goes to this blacksmith. And the people that were there, the blacksmith wasn't there at the time, but the people that worked for him informed him that, hey, your tools aren't done. So David Greer walks right out the front door, said, okay. And he walks out the front door, goes and sits up in a tree, builds himself a blind, and sits and waits. He has his flintlock with him, or probably percussion cap at that point in time. But he has his gun with him, and he's sitting there waiting. When the blacksmith does finally show up to work, his assistants told him, you're a dead man. David Greer just came by and came to get his tools, and they weren't ready. So the blacksmith, being a very smart man, takes a stick or a gun or something and puts his hat on top of that stick. Walks outside and goes to a hill where he knew that he couldn't see him, and puts his hat up just high enough to where David Greer thought that it was the blacksmith. David Greer takes a shot and knocks that hat off of that stick and thought he killed the blacksmith. So what does he do? He turns around and starts headed up to his beloved Big Bald. The blacksmith then, with the gun loaded, locks back that percussion cap and shoots him in the back of the head and kills him, then being the ending of David Greer. But it is all a true story. It's all fascinating, but it's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
But yep, so if you ever go up to Big Bald, I've never been, but if you go up there, look for the rock face, look for where he lived. I think you can find it. I think it's pretty easy to find. And I would assume if you did like LiDAR, but maybe there's probably detections of that 3-foot wide trench that he built, or that he dug to mark his property. Just one of the many fascinating people that came to this
definitely.
area. For probably 2 or 3 miles, just straight up.
Let's go.
Oh man, I can't. I can, but not today. But it'll go up to the lake. So the lake currently, we were talking about it, but the lake currently is pretty much just a creek. If you go in the spring, like Buckeye Falls, we have on the backside of Rocky Fork, we have now, it's the second largest waterfall west of the east of the Rocky Mountains. It's 975 foot, starts at the top of the mountain and ends at the bottom. And it's called Buckeye Falls. So you can come up Clark's Creek and access it from the bottom.
That's a hard one to get to.
Yeah, it's hard, like very, very hard. But you can also access it from here and see it from Trigger Ridge, looking across the ridge.
Wow.
It's very, I'm going to say, it's going to sound bad, but it's kind of underwhelming just because it's like a white streak down the side of a mountain, but it's very cool to see and know what you're looking at. So Buzzard's Roost is up there. It's the very, very back of Rocky Fork. Right across Buzzard's Roost is Greene County, or Greenville, I guess, because I think that is in Greene County. And then the lake, of course. We were talking about it. The lake blew in 2018. It used to be a 10-acre lake. You can look up photos of it. They used to stock it with brook trout, brown trout, rainbows. It used to be a great fishing place and destination for people. But the dam blew in 2018, and the U.S. Forest Service has done some surveys and just found that like the species that thrive around that lake are better off with it out being a lake. The cool thing about it, the really cool thing about it, I went up there the other day, and the bear prints and the fox prints and the bobcat and the coyote prints up there are incredible. Like the whole lake bottom is just full of it because it's very soft from where that water was there all year. So I saw some huge bear prints. But Jeff, our other ranger, said that either last year or the year before they had elk prints up there. So this is cool. So elk, I don't think elk live here, but I think they probably do pass the river once in a while.
They migrate a lot.
Yeah, they migrate. So.
They are beautiful.
Yeah, and there was a community over in North Carolina that released them. So probably just those that got released came over. Maybe the ones in Cades Cove and Cherokee, but I doubt they're coming this far. But maybe, I mean, maybe.
They travel.
I don't know. They're just not up there. So I will say, feel free, y'all. You guys are hot. You guys are busting it out. Feel free to keep doing it. If you guys are happy with that, I'm hanging back just to make sure. But it's up to y'all. If you guys want to hang back, I'm rambling. So if you don't want to listen to me, take off. But it's just up to you guys. So did that answer?
Ooh. Campsites. Cool. No, we're looking for tracks. Looking for tracks.
Man, one thing I'll say about Jeff, and I hadn't said something to him yet, but I'm going to one day, is he'll drive through these water puddles, and man, I will swing out of my way to miss them.
Right.
It's like, hey man, that's our evidence right there.
Right.
You can always track people from these wet spots in the ground. Okay, so back, I'm gonna butcher these dates, so you'll have to go back and fact check me. But back, I would say in like the 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe even 60s, there was a company out of Irwin called Blue Ridge Pottery. The pottery company, as you know, pottery breaks. So when they would break their shards of pottery and drop a shard, they just had big piles of this pottery. So the loggers here in Rocky Fork, up in Chestoa, really everywhere locally, commissioned Blue Ridge Pottery to get these pieces of pottery, to put them on our trail, on them, that time their trail, to put them on the trail and make it the chat of the trail. Yeah, so if you look, it's absolutely everywhere in through here. I'll add this one back in there.
And I'll add mine back in.
It's so cool though.
Yes, it is. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's just neat history.
I love history.
Man, I will go down the rabbit hole. You remember when I was talking about Snake Den Ridge?
Yeah.
In from like the gorge of Snake Den Ridge all the way up through here is great brook trout fishing. And brook trout are you'll want to fact check this, but they're like the third, fourth, fifth, second, let's say one of the oldest living species in the world. The Appalachian Mountains are one of the oldest mountain ranges in the world, and these brook trout have lived in these mountains forever. So you can come up here. I almost brought my fishing rod to catch them for y'all, just to show you.
Do people come up here just to fish?
Just to fish, yep.
Wow.
Yeah, people will hike this just to do it.
Yeah. We kind of like to hang back with the ranger and learn things.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but unfortunately just this group of hikers came out here and they camped on the property line. So their tent was literally half and half, in park and out of park. And I don't think they would have gotten a ticket, but they have their dog off a leash. And you know, in Tennessee, you have to have a dog on a leash.
Yeah.
They had the dog off a leash and it bit that ranger. So I think that led him to write a ticket about camping on park property.
From here, the sign, where the sign was, forward you can camp. This side of the sign, you cannot camp.
Like you said, I don't know if that is the section. This is so damp right now.
So usually all this is underwater?
Yes. Yeah, usually it'll come up to about where your feet are.
Oh, wow.
This is a great little run for fishing. I don't know, normally if you sit here and watch on them, you'll see trout.
Y'all see any fish?
Nope, just a salamander.
Salamander. Oh, he's going to get a salamander.
So this was fun. I was going to recommend you turn around. Oh man, it's so cute. Where he actually slept at, let's say that. I love this actually.
Practically running to get back down, because when you're with a group, you can't pee. And I really gotta go. How do you feel?
Probably a 6-mile hike.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I think
It's
probably
breaking you in. The Rocky Fork maps. You just scan that. It's a lot bigger than I thought it was. But still, these little things that they're calling waterfalls. Cascades. It's pretty though. Definitely a pretty park. Thanks for the invite, Slick. It was nice. Nice people too.
So,
All right, Slick, how many miles did we do?
let me check here. It's more than 6.
Check and be on the button.
Total of 17,484 steps equaled out to 7.75
Almost 8 miles.
7.75
Yeah.
7.57 miles.
Right, almost 8 miles.
Yeah.
That
And that's all trail. That's not
All trail.
walking around at home or anything.
good. Yeah, he started it when we got out of the car. Thanks for watching, people.